So I just got through the Barbenheimer experience, and one was, oh, okay, I see, it's not too bad. And the other one was, no! Well, let's just start with Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan's newest movie about J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb. And it was a pretty solid movie, actually. Cillian Murphy does a really good job at playing this somewhat kind of troubled character who's still very excited to be doing his work and being a part of it. Robert Downey Jr. is also really good in this movie. He's so good at conveying this deep-seated wrath and hatred. It's really a great performance. And there's plenty of other good performances. Those were just the two that stuck out to me the most. The use of sound design in the movie at times could also be chilling. There was a good use of reincorporation with these boots stomping at one part of the movie. It was very loud and it built up a lot of tension and anxiety almost. Very effectively used if you ask me.
8, 7, 6.
The scene where they drop the bomb is also really well done. Most of the music usually felt like it fit all the scenes pretty well. I guess the only criticism there would probably be that maybe it felt a little generic, but it wasn't terrible or anything from what I remember. My biggest criticisms of the movie is basically just how it was told. There's a lot of jumping back and forth between different periods of time, and it's kind of confusing to wrap your head around as an audience member. There are scenes that are in black and white, and at first you think that they must just take place like at a different part in time, and then when you switch to the color scenes, that it's actually just taking place in like the present or whatever. But according to some interview stuff that I've read, it's supposed to be that the black and white scenes take place at the antagonist's point of view, and the in color scenes are supposed to be Oppenheimer's point of view, which I guess I see a little bit, but it's still kind of confusing. And with all the jumping back and forth, it can kind of make things end up feeling kind of bloated by the end of the movie, and it's already like a 3-hour biopic, and they're trying to give a lot of information to you in a very quick way already. So having this jumping back and forth thing only serves to make things feel more confusing. But overall, I had a pretty good experience with the movie. I'll probably have to give it a second watch so I can get a better feel for it though. 7 out of 10. And now we get to talk about Barbie. Yay. Now maybe you can't tell by my tone, but I didn't enjoy this movie as much as Oppenheimer. In fact, about halfway through the movie, I basically checked out. But I'll get into that in a second. Let's just start with the stuff that I actually liked in Barbie. All of the performances were pretty solid. Margot Robbie wasn't too bad. I liked her, and so was Ryan Gosling. There's a couple of parts that actually kind of made me laugh. Like there's a part where Ken does the aw shucks motion. Him and Barbie were talking, and he's like, "Can I stay over?" And she's like, "No." And then Ken does the aw shucks, the old swing the arm aw shucks. That was pretty funny. And I think there was like 1 or 2 other things that made me laugh, but they don't come to mind right away right now. I thought the opening of the movie was really interesting and it brought up a lot of curiosity, but then when I found out what was happening, I just wasn't as interested. It seemed like there was inspiration taken from Truman Show, but once again, the further you get into the movie, the less it feels like it, which is fine. I don't want it to just completely copy off of Truman Show. I want it to have its own identity. And there's nothing really that was that amazing other than that. Those are the only really solid parts that I really enjoyed. So let's talk about the main problem I had with this movie, the story and its script. Now this movie obviously has a pretty strong social message that it wants to push, and that's fine. Lots of people get mad at putting politics in movies, and if you ask me, everything's political. Now some things are a bit more obvious about it, and that can also be okay. But I do think you need some amount of subtlety before it just feels like as an audience member that you're preaching at me, because I'd probably align with a lot of the issues they're talking about. I'm a pretty progressive person, but when there's a scene in the movie where it literally feels like you stop the movie so your character can preach at me, it just feels inorganic. Like if you want to present the issues that women have, maybe go to the old show don't tell rule, because the scene that I'm talking about where America Ferrera's character starts talking about all the issues that women have in society, it just straight up doesn't feel like the character's talking about issues they have. It feels like the character is just a talk piece for an issue that the writer wants to bring up. And if you're gonna present these issues so obviously, I'd prefer if you handled them in a bit more of a realistic way too. As soon as she gets into the real world, a dude slaps her ass and she goes to a police station and they let her go because she's pretty. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just guy-brained, but does that not feel a little unrealistic? Like, there are definitely women that get out of situations just by virtue of being women, and there are definitely dudes who harass women and do shitty stuff, but Jesus, this blatantly. But even ignoring the politics, there's other parts of the movie that just feel unrealistic. She gets to this big corporate office that Will Ferrell is the CEO of, and when she tries to get out, it's basically like a Scooby-Doo chase scene. And I feel like if you really wanted to contrast the difference between the real and the fake world, maybe having the real world feel more real would help. Crazy idea, I know. I don't know. Just feels a little silly to me, especially when the whole movie's supposed to be about realizing how hard the real world is. Presenting it in such an unrealistic way just seems counter to the narrative that you're trying to push. But hey, it's not the worst movie in the world. There's just a lot that I think could have been done better. I'd probably give the movie like a 4 or 5 out of 10, so I'll be nice and give it a 5. And have a good day.
I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, wrapped in plastic. It's fantastic.